Hello and welcome to the Sound in Picture podcast. My name is Javor Zugravsky, founder of Sound in Picture, and also I make music under the name Smiach. Today is our third episode and I'm very excited to have Luca Longobardi on. He's Italian composer who's written music for very interesting shows and theater plays, and I can't wait to ask him a few questions about his work and his career. So Luca, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, hi, hello everyone.
Let's start at first. What initially sparked your interest to get involved in music? I've read that you're classically trained, but how did you decide to go that way?
Yes, like everything started when I was like 4. Like my parents at a certain point decided to give me a little like keyboard as a gift for Christmas. And from that point on, like all the other toys, just like I lost any kind of interest, in the other toys I had, and I started to play this little keyboard. And at a certain point, my mother started to understand that I wasn't just like screwing my hands on the keyboard, but I was basically doing something in coordination with my very young mind. At that point, like my parents thought about, let me start, to study to practice, music. So I was really, really young, and since then, like I never left, my relationship with music. So I started as a pianist. I studied at the conservatory, and while I was studying piano, my piano teacher suggested to start to study composition. Like his idea was like, if you get into the mood, of the composer, how he actually thought about developing the ideas, writing the music, organizing all the creative materials, probably it would be easier for you to make a better performance. So that's the reason why I started to study composition. So when I finished the conservatory, after a while, I moved to New York, which like where I studied, I kept studying music. Then I came back and I started to work as actually a rehearsal pianist for opera and for ballet, for classical ballet. And while I was like doing this job in theaters, actually, we were more than one. I started also to have interest in contemporary dance. The production there was much more wider. The choreographers needed new ideas, experimental music. So at a certain point, that kind of, work opened my mind. And there was something that switched not to another direction. At the same time, I was already studying for my PhD. There was a PhD in audio restoration. So I was getting all the tapes and Betacam and vinyls, trying to recover the material and clean them up and trying to have the best, version of them, keeping the meaning of historical, recordings. And while I was working on those kind of things, I started to fall in love with the little noises, the glitches, all the thing that I was cleaning up from the recordings. And that was like another kind of interest that together with the contemporary ballet thing, the production came together and made me probably the composer I am today. I don't know what it's going to be about tomorrow, but today, like my production is made of music, noises, and melodies and harmonies, but also there's a very contemporary thing that you won't find on Spotify, but you can find actually in my multimedia production. It's like much more music concrete, concrete music production that you can find in those kind of productions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting combination also of the organic instruments as well as the digital ones like the synthesizers and the noise. Yeah, it's cleverly implemented. And so you've worked on audio restoration just for music, right? Not because I have a colleague, for example, who's doing audio restoration for the police, and he's been cleaning audio from like criminal scenes and stuff like this, which
Actually, I've been called once to do this kind of thing because like I am one of the few guys who does this kind of thing in Italy, but it's a totally another thing. Like the studies I made were we're focusing on another kind of thing. Like I came out with this plugin who could like make everything you play resonate in a specific ambient, in a specific place. Also, for instance, if you want to listen to your piano played in an old theater that doesn't exist anymore, through this software, you can actually hear it. So it was an experimental thing in which I was trying to have an idea of what like music could sound in a specific place. Actually, this research, the software I made, was very useful when I started to work for the immersive shows, because like immersive shows are held in these like very huge places and far away. And the big success we had in the States just came during the pandemic. So I never had the chance to go to those places, to finalize the soundtrack in the specific place. So the software I made, now it's been like 12 years ago, it's still very useful for my work,
How is the plugin code? Can outside people use it, or it's just for specific?
No, it's just like never been released.
Okay.
It was something made in a very, very also easy graphic way. It was running on Pro Tools actually at the time. And then I made like a version for Logic. Then Logic X, it is actually the DAW that I use almost like all the time. But no, I never thought actually about like put it out, and make it. But maybe one day, actually, now you make me think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, of course. And to me, how I picture it sounds like some kind of reverb, or it's more than just a reverb in
No, it's a convolution reverb with like some kind of attentional, like especially the low end of the reverb, because that's what happens. Like I've been working in places in which the natural reverb was like 12 seconds, So when you write music for this kind of thing and you say that like in that place, you're going to have 1,000 people by time listening to the music while watching the images, and you have like 12 seconds of reverb, you have to understand, how to manage, the new composition. I used to also, the production, we used to have also edited music already, pop songs and jazz music and classical music in the shows. And for that kind of thing, the miracles have always been made by the sound engineering who was taking care of the location, But when it takes me to write new music, I always write music with the space in my mind. And then I also have to take in consideration that probably the show is going to be made in another location. So then I have to rework, the soundtrack for that location. And then probably I'm going to have the sort of radio edit for the release of the soundtrack. So it is really, usually if I have like the show in 26 locations, that means I made 26 masters of that soundtrack.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work, and I never mentioned like, you have to take into consideration now the reverb in the space. So this means that you probably won't put so much reverb or different kinds of effects on your compositions when you work on it, right?
Yeah. Actually, sometimes I used to think about the locations like effect pedals. If I already have the reverb there, I'm not using it, for the version of soundtrack I'm gonna send for that location. But of course I'm gonna use it, for the final edit for the release, So it's really like a little balance you have to do from time to time. But at the same time, you have to take in consideration that location has its own voice. So also the music must sound in a specific way in that location, so you can recognize that you're listening to the track in there and not in another place. This is my idea. It's something like I came out in this like 12 years I've been working for the immersive shows, and little by little, like it just became my style. Let's talk about like my taste, my signature, this kind of thing. This is the particular attention I put on that, The cool thing about the immersive shows, that there's so many ways to tell a story about a painter, about a group of painters, that you can make like different shows on the same topic, forever, actually. There's something like now it's been 21 immersive shows.
Oh, wow.
21 different methods.
Mm-hmm. Let's pick one, maybe the Van Gogh for starters. And I saw some photos. It's basically like a huge room where people can see his paintings, right? Projections of his paintings. And
the thing is, like, what's really hard about describing this kind of show. It's like, for instance, you call this show Van Gogh. Of course, it's Van Gogh because it's his life, his production, his paintings. But it's not like, it's actually a thought of some artist about another artist. Mm-hmm. So actually, this kind of shows, they've been born with like the director, that is Massimiliano Siccardi. Vittorio Guidotti is actually the art director. Plus me, I am one of the authors. Of course, I take care of about the music. We start with writing a storyboard. What we want to tell about Van Gogh, mm-hmm. and how we want to tell about these things, about him. So, of course, we have to read a lot about his life, his productions, and then we have to see like which kind of images are we can get, in high resolution to be then animated for the show. And for instance, we made a Van Gogh in France. The production didn't want to mention that Van Gogh was a depressed artist. They didn't want to tell anything about the difficulties he had, in his life. When we made the new show in 2020, the one that actually reached is like huge popularity in North America, we were totally free, to tell what we really thought about the artist. So we, of course, told in our way about his life. And once the storyboard was there, the first thing that comes out is the music. These kind of shows are worked like the animations, the Disney animation. So you have the music and then you move, the images on the music. It's never the opposite. This is the first step. So the first thing I have to do, we are picking like the kind of music, radiated music we want to. And then we decide in which part of the show is going to be my original music. So I have to write the music, present a draft. I have the approval from the director. Actually, the director is a very good friend. We've been knowing each other for like 25 years, and we really get along with them. We don't need to talk to each other. Usually it's the first choice is the right choice. There's a good thing about collaboration, these kind of collaborations. And so once we have the soundtrack done, all the timing of each section has been decided by the director. That's this like superpower. He really knows, how long a certain session should be, Then after that, I receive at a certain point a first draft of the animation. So we see if everything works. And we go back and forth with effects. And sometimes I have to change something in the music. Sometimes they have to change something in the animation. But then, like when we have a sort of final cut or picture log of the show, I start to I start to work again on the soundtrack. I'm going to, write new elements that make the soundtrack to sound like just a whole unique, and very consistent, piece of music, like a symphony, like it's been made by one person, even though you have like very different and various, kind of music, from jazz to folk to classical music to contemporary music, new rework, new recompose, and whatever.
Mm.
So, and with Van Gogh, actually, there was, according to me, it was a very lucky case.
Mm.
Even though, like, it was a lucky case in unfortunately, let's say, landscape, because like the show was supposed to it premiered before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of the pandemic, it could not like be premiered. So like it was postponed. It was moved like 4 or 5 months later, But at the same time, it was the only show open in North America. And that's because of the big locations, and because like at a certain point, the director decided to project on the floors this like circle. They already have the perfect distance, to make you safe. So people entered the place, they reached their spot, and they didn't have to take care of, other people, distances and whatever. So at a certain point, they really had the chance to finally relax, after the first lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Then was the first ever immersive show imported in the States. It was the first time American people were, attending immersive show. They didn't know what it was.
Mm.
No, and the third thing, it was like the show was very personal. The way we made it was really touching. We really put ourselves, in a very humble, but at the same time sincere way into the show. And just because also Van Gogh as a character, as a person, is a person who like everyone can relate to, especially after first lockdown condition. All these things together made the show sell 5 million tickets in the North America. And for instance, like Ticket One at Bloomberg said that the show made more tickets than the Taylor Swift tour in 2019. And this is like a really big thing because like we're talking about another kind of entertainment. We are talking about painter, we're talking about classical music, and we have just one kind of music, but pop music is called pop music because it's more popular than other kind of music. So the idea that 5 million people, that one American on 100, saw our shows and listen to my music was something really, unbelievable, and I have to face this situation that was totally new,
Yeah, that's great.
So,
Yeah.
and Van Gogh, the show is still going. There are some cities in the States in which the show is still going. It's been 3 years now.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a very creative and interesting, like a documentary, but in a totally different way.
And then, like, another important thing about the shows, like, we never meant the show as a substitute of a museum. Like, it's not better than the real thing. It's a different thing, So this is like, the idea is to tell our idea about that painter,
Mm-hmm.
And then like, we're going to show you in a new way with a new media. And then another thing, like after the success of Van Gogh, like now you see the word immersive in anything.
Yeah.
Like anywhere you go around, you see immersive this, immersive that. It's not just because you put like a lot of projectors in a room and you have like 360 images around you. That doesn't make a show immersive. That makes a media immersive. They make a location ready for an immersive media, but the immersive art has a specific, either a specific path you have to follow to make what you want to tell an immersive work of art.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like it. It's not just putting images around. It's not just putting like spatial music around. It's not that, and that's a little bit tricky. At the same time, it's a cool thing because like people are buying tickets to go to see an immersive show, and they don't see an immersive show, and probably at a certain point they will get sick of that, and then we want to appreciate something, calling that immersive work, and it's not an immersive work at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a passion, so everything is immersive.
It's become like a keyword. I also see it here in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is the main factor that makes it immersive?
Yeah, at least three things. First of all, the timing of the narration. So you have to tell what you have to tell in a way that people have the chance to live their daily life out of the location and get immersed with their soul, with their ears, with their eyes in the narration. Mm-hmm. And then at a certain point, you have to take people by their hands and walk them out of this magic world because they have to go back to their life. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is the first thing. Another thing is like, one of the secrets is like, in the immersive show, you are the main character. It's always a subjective narration. Mm-hmm. You want, for instance, let's say Snow White. If you see Snow White, that's not an immersive show. You have to be Snow White. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's this big thing about, is the movie, is the future of the movie the immersive media? We have no idea because like movies are made by actors, the big actors, big stars, and then like you have just one front, of public. You can like, for instance, another thing, you never know where people are looking while the show is going. Mm-hmm. Okay, because probably like it's not that you have a main wall and then the background. Everything it's really important because people are supposed to go around, take their time, go into the story the way they can. Also, for instance, the sync with the music. When you write music for the immersive show, it's not like writing lead. It's like a 3D mapping or another kind of installation, or like you do with a movie in which you make the perfect synchronization with the images, mm-hmm. Because like you don't know in that precise moment where people are looking to, So, mm-hmm. So this is another thing that with music you have to probably get more into the feeling of the story and not in the technical thing with the images. Mm-hmm. Another thing, the location. Location has to tell you something, even though there's no, the projectors are off. The location has to have its story, and at the same time, it has to be a very big location. Like the relationship between our like physical dimension and the dimension of the walls, mm-hmm. it is really important. Not only because like the kind of animation, the pace of the animation needs a big wall, but also because you have to feel this little, in comparison with the images.
Mm-hmm. And do you have multiple rooms, or is it just one big hall?
It depends. Like we've been working in places in which we had 3 different rooms, For instance, the location we had in New York, it was like 3 very big rooms, one after the other. In Chicago right now, the location has four actually rooms. There's a big room, then you walk upstairs, and you have two little rooms on the right, and like a bigger room on the left, so you can go around, and all like images are always the same in every room, but they've been located in a special way, to highlight the particularity of of that room.
And I guess like his work is in the public domain, so there haven't been any difficult procedures with copyright and such.
Not for that. Like Van Gogh and Klimt are actually the one and like this kind of thing. But like for instance, when we made the show about Frida, we had the chance to work with Frida relatives, actually the grandnieces, and they have like they have the foundation in their heads. And of course, for that you have to pay for the copyrights for the images. The same thing happened when we made the show for the Vatican. With the Sistine Chapels and everything. So it depends. But for instance, the reason why you see so many other Van Gogh immersive shows around is because it's public domain. So they don't have to pay for so people think that they go to see the show, they can grab what they want, they improvise themselves as director, musicians, and animations, and they put together a show that is nothing in comparison of what an immersive show should be. But this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And recently, you've also worked on immersive show for Mozart, right?
Yeah. It was like one of a kind show because it was the first time we had a chance to work to make an immersive show about a composer, not a painter. So the thing is like. Usually you start from images because already, people know already, images, and they recognize, for instance, the Van Gogh sunflowers or the irises, or the yellow room, And with Mozart, it was a totally different approach. We have to make stretch all the images. We made a lot of research. Mm-hmm. We just had like a couple of good portraits of Mozart, but we had his story his life in our hands, So we knew like he'd been in Italy, for instance, for 5 years while he was studying, to get ready to write the operas, So and then we made research. We put in the show, for instance, landscape made by painters from that period, from that ages, mm-hmm. into the show. We worked a lot with AI. So we made a lot of things that inspired or made by the creative studio. They've been drawing things, they've been modeling things with the 3D, 2D, and then the show is about 40 minutes, so it's a very long show. And of course, because it was the first immersive show about a composer, I had a chance to work with a real orchestra and a real choir, So I had 4 Grammy-nominated conductor, Maestro Orbeliano, conducting the orchestra. And so what I made, I made some choices about what Mozart repertoire bring into the show, and of course we're talking about 600, more than 600, compositions. So we had to leave something out. Mm-hmm. But what we used to say, we could make another 100 shows about Mozart because of the music left. So we had to make a choice. So we did. And at a certain, contemporary, I also brought some new music for the show. An introduction, for instance, for the Requiem. I made a recompose of the Eine kleine Nachtmusik. I had a chance to play with the orchestra, the Concerto for Piano and Orchestra for 88. I made a recomposition, the 467. I made a new arrangement with the harpsichord, chamber orchestra, and a solo viola of the clarinet concerto. So it was really a big work. I've been working on the show for 2 years. what I was doing is something else. But it's one of a kind, and it's really magic. It's like really nice. So for now, the only place in which you can see it, it's in Chicago. And right now they're making like a special entrance ticket in which you can see Mozart and Van Gogh. And it's really cool because like they're so different one from each other, but they're two beauty, so beautiful at the same time and different. So people, when they get there, they have the chance really to see, two different things. And hopefully it will soon go around, for the other location we have. And right now, we're also opening a little bit to the European market, actually. So we have the Van Gogh in Porto, right now in Portugal. And also we have the Impressionists, Monet and Impressionists show in Warsaw, in Poland. So probably there would be more locations, on the way for the next years, hopefully, finger crossed.
Yeah, let's hope so, for sure. And I mean, working for such a show and must be like also big responsibility, like collaborating with Mozart, basically.
Yeah. And like it was hard, but as a musician, especially as a classical pianist, I always had a special attention of respect the score and what the composer wrote on the score. And I did my best to bring the same attention as a composer, So when I took, for instance, the material from the Anne Karenach music to make it recomposed, I just like made my own version. And that doesn't mean it's better or worse, probably worse, I don't know, but like it's not better, it's not worse in comparison with Mozart, but it's something new. That we just needed something new in that precise moment of the show. Like there's no need to rework Mozart, but there was the need to rework Mozart for that particular scene. So what I'm doing when I write for the soundtrack of a immersive show, I'm collaborating with the director. I'm writing music for him with like following his indication. It's not just me writing music, It's exactly how it happens when you write music for a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that, I have to, it's not a compromise, but it's a really collaboration. So it's me saying, listen, in this particular moment, probably we don't need that, but we need a more fresh view on that score. So if you agree, I can send you this thing I've been working on. If you like it, for instance, I worked for 1.5 years on that recomposed, like throwing away a lot of version I didn't like, and then finally the right one came there on the score, and really proud of that composition. I really love it, and I really hope one day it would be really like in the ears of everyone, because like it's a very fresh point of view of a very classical, and beautiful composition. But this is like what my idea was I always tried, and hopefully I did, I always tried to bring the top of the respect I could, in towards the composition and the composer I was reworking.
How much creative freedom do you have in terms of picking the instruments and?
Actually, I'm totally free. I'm lucky. I'm super lucky. I can do whatever I want, and of course, then you have to deal with money. Production gives you, for realizing the soundtrack. But usually, as I told you before, the director really likes. He really likes the way I write music. So.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not him telling me I don't like this one. Sometimes it's me changing something. Like I write a thing, and then when I see the whole thing is, I say this thing is not in the right place. So like I go back and I write something else, I become something else, and then I have a choice, and then I usually we see what works better. We put it there. We have like a different thing we can use. But I'm lucky enough to be totally free, to pick whatever I want, whichever style, whichever instrument, So really lucky from this point of view.
Yeah, and for people that are interested to hear this, I already listened on Spotify, so people can find the music both for Mozart and Van Gogh shows on Spotify.
Yeah. The thing is, like, we thought about putting together in a playlist all the tracks we used, for the show without the edit, like, except from like my things that are actually exactly the way they are at the show. We just like take a edition we like, the playlist on Spotify. So, but at least you have the track list, the right, way they got together. But of course, the music then is being edited, for the show, also because of the timing of the show.
Mm-hmm. And what's your routine like in terms of like a perfect creative day? Do you work every day and non-stop? Do you like taking breaks, or do you have a structured routine, or would you rather like wake up and decide on the spot this morning what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Like if I'm not like in the process of like if I'm not working on a project like a soundtrack, then I have a deadline. If I have a deadline, what I do, I try to make a schedule, not to have it done, to have it like done in the best way possible. If I'm free, and for instance, this is the first week after 4 years in which like I don't have anything, to send to someone else, so I can finally, think about my new album and like take some time to go back to some instruments. Some years, I take the manual back and explore a bit, for fun, and I go a little bit further, like my knowledge of this kind of instruments. So what I do, like, what I tell myself that composing is exactly like playing the piano. We need to exercise every day. Like consistency is made by doing practice art every day. You have to have this like daily relationship with the instrument, with the piano, or with the composition. So, of course, for instance, this kind of relationship now I have with the followers I have on socials help a little bit this kind of process, because I know that people is probably expecting, for a new video on Instagram, on YouTube, in which like I'm here with my gears, with my little, personage, my little old people watching me working, the little parel. Mm-hmm. So that's something that me keeps me active. I say, okay, this morning I'm doing this one, and then like if the kind of exploration I'm doing that morning, it's worth it. Like 2 minutes back, I'm going to record it. I have my camera near, so I can just like put it there and I can record it. And it's a good thing to do because like when you see the video, you can also see how you made that knob or that fader. So probably you remember also, the routine to play the track again,
Yeah.
And so I have this like daily, thing in which, of course, I'm gonna pick an instrument. It depends on it can be because I want to play it or because I need to get back, to study some features, or just because like I don't know it enough, or because like I chose to have that instrument in my new setup. So I spend a lot of time on this kind of thing, but during the day, like I switch from a thing to another. So sometimes I just put like a scene on the table and I play. Sometimes I just write music by hand on the paper. At a certain point in the afternoon, I sit on my piano. I spend like 40 minutes to make technical exercises, and then like I take some book with the classical music and I go back to read and play Rachmaninoff, Scriabin, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, whatever. And sometimes once I'm there, I'm gonna to sketch some ideas on the piano, But like I started to be a professional musician, and with that I mean that is my main job. This is my main occupation now in 2019. So of course I spend at least 7-8 hours a day, with my music. That depends. It can be on the piano plus synth plus like a composition book. I want to read again and whatever, but like it is my main thing.
Okay, yeah, and it involves a lot of discipline. And yeah, actually, this answered one of my questions where, like, if you're a classical musician, I guess your approach is mixed. Like, sometimes you write the notes, or sometimes you just sit on the piano and create the notes out of your head, like this, right?
And it's both. It's both. So because the thing is, if you sit on the piano, it's easier that you're gonna play something that it's under your fingers. And with that, I mean that it's easy for you to play.
Definitely.
Probably after a while, that can give you kind of the same, feeling. The kind of the same 16 notes on the left hand, or the triplets on the right hand, and so sometimes writing music helps you to get out, of a certain routine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like a very cool thing, I think I found very helpful is sometimes to play on the digital piano connected to a DAW. So you go on, you already are writing music. So the thing is, like, you can go a little bit further in your routine, and then you can correct the notes, and then you have the right score, and then you can go on the physical piano and learn that score as it's not yours, Mm-hmm. So sometimes if I have to search for something new, I start on the real piano, then I move on the digital piano with my DAW, so I can record the notes, and then like I correct by hands or on the DAW, the score, and then I go back to the real instrument to record it.
Mm-hmm. And are you self-taught about the DAWs, the software side and the synths? Did you learn them by yourself, or did you look for it?
I did by myself. Yeah. The thing is, like, I was at a certain point to attend the electronic music course in the conservatory, but at the same time I was working already in the theater, so I could not match, I cannot match both. So at a certain point I had all the books, so I started to study by myself, and I really like to take a manual in my hand and go through it and go back where I don't understand it. I really like to study. I made a PhD because, like, researching on a topic, it's something I really like. So I really like to understand one thing, and then even though I feel that I want to go back to it, so I can catch more, more things, more nuances about the topic, Yeah. So yes, I did, and I think, for instance, there some tutorials on YouTube are great for this kind of process. I like really people when they tell you how the instrument works, and they help you to explore, the instrument through a tutorial. Usually what I do, I go through the manual, and once I think I know how it works, I search for a tutorial on YouTube to see if I got it right. I'm not really those kind of tutorial in which people just give you presets, because people are lazy, especially young generations right now. They're extremely lazy. I teach in the university. I teach sound design in the university. So I know a little bit how the new generation is. So if you, in a tutorial, you give a preset, so you just say, put this knob like this, feather like this, and then do that, and you're actually making your sound available, to other generation. The new generation are just copying that. Of course, your video is going to have a lot of like on YouTube, but at the same time, you're not teaching, how to use that instrument. You're just giving a preset, to someone who's going to just use it, probably not even go to tweak a little bit the parameters, So I'm totally in that kind of tutorials. I really like when people makes you understand how the instrument works, a little bit less in people just presenting preset, to adjust the like and the followers, on the channel.
Yeah, for sure. And I can relate because I also teach here. We're actually in a music academy right now. And yeah, I'm 30 years old, but like the new generation that's coming, like 18, 20-year-olds, yeah, they really want to have it right now, very fast. And
Yeah.
our course is half a year, but when I say, okay, we'll have to study for 6 months, they're like, oh, I was hoping to learn it in a month or two. And it's really
I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
And honestly, yeah, when I was starting out, I was kind of the same, and I didn't have the patience to watch tutorials actually, and I'm self-taught as well. So I was just sitting and figuring things out by myself. But that's like the interesting part, the process of discovery. Actually, and music is really about learning and discovering. And but yeah, it's I think it's very
And then there are some manuals that are really written like in a very great way. And these manuals are like the one in which like they tell you what the instrument does, and then at the same time they bring you something, to say put the knobs like this, start like that, and then move it a little bit around. So you have the idea that you're crafting your sound, you're making your sound design, so this is another thing. And the process of discovering is it's so great, then I don't really understand why people they don't want to go through it, because it's such a great feeling,
All right, and what's next for you? You mentioned you're working on a solo album, or?
Yes, I started actually 2 weeks ago. It should be like my. I mean, when I say my album, I mean that it's one of those albums that is not like connected to a multimedia project. I have this like thing. It's on the discography. The first one was Plume. The second one was the Yard Sale. And then it was a 1750, 51, 51. Even though then I took some track from that album for an immersive show, but it wasn't written for an immersive show. So now I'm working on this like it's actually a project. With that I mean it's a particular thing. I'm trying to work with a setup in which, except for the piano, everything it's not really stable. That means that you cannot reproduce the exact sound every time you play it. But like I just want to record like the album, just playing the tracks a lot of time, sometimes also live, and then like recollect what I like most. And probably it's gonna be I'm say probably because I'm still studying how to put the stuff together, but it's gonna be the first album that will be made without a DAW.
Okay.
So I'm just like recording everything through two recorders and a mixer, and I'm gonna just like take the probably it's gonna be just out for the vinyl.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't want too much, edit, and so probably, of course, I have to make a master for the vinyl, but it's gonna be probably just a physical release, and probably I don't know, but it could be something special for the streaming, but one of a kind. I'm thinking about the project is really ambitious, So, but for now, I just like do the first 4 or 5 packs,
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea at the setup ready. The instruments are there. Still looking for a polyphonic that could do what I want to do, but the first ideas are pretty cool. So,
all right,
I'm in the process of getting the idea done.
Yeah. Nice. Well, good luck with that. And what's the most fun project that you've been working on? Like, what's your favorite type of project? Is it like the immersive show or working on your solo music?
It's kind of the same. For the immersive show, of course, I have more. I have other directions. You know, like I mean, I'm totally free, but I know I'm writing music for a particular topic, a particular show. You know, and probably it's easier because like I have some limits actually. In certain cases, you know, they're a good way to bring it home, you know, to have it done. But what I do when I write a solo album, what I do is like I make my own story. I know what I have to tell. So I start to write the draft of the composition, and then I put it together, and I start to see if it works together, and then I'm gonna feel, you know, the gap, or to say, here I need this kind of mood, I need this kind of, you know, sound. So it's really a slow building up, but it works like I'm building a story. So it's kind of the same thing, even though it's not.
Yeah, for me also it's good to refresh things, like sometimes work on another project, different kind of project. For example, like recently I finished the soundtrack for a movie, and it was really enriching experience. And right now it's actually I'm having some. It's not that hard, but kind of like hard time coming back to my own style and developing. And it's definitely changed from the previous project, and it's really interesting to have them on rotation, and you develop inspiration from one project and then to the other, and yeah, you just keep it moving and dynamic. And
yeah, we do because like thing is like everything enriches you, but at the same time, because of the attention you put in making a project. Of course, like your mind, your ears are looking for something new, you know, and it's not just a new melody or a new chord progression. Especially if you work with sound, it's about a new color, you know, that could fit, you know, what you want to do. So we are lucky enough to say it's a never-ending process, you know. So
definitely,
that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing about music.
All right. And is there anything you want to share before we wrap this up with the audience? Or
I think I said a lot. Like I'm always I'm almost like I every time like I to do this kind of thing, I say even though it doesn't look like I'm a very shy guy, you know, and I always like feel like probably I don't know what to say. Then I start to talk, and I talk a lot, you know. So I think like I said like what was important to me, and I told you like I really speak by my own experience, you know, and I'm trying to be as much honest as I can be. So like it's my experience, it's my thoughts. They can totally be different from others, you know, but hopefully, you know, you can perceive that what I say in a sincere way, you know.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, and I feel like I learned a lot, and for sure I think that our audience would be interested, because it's really like sounding picture. It's writing, both things are connected, and yeah, and actually for people who don't know, we've done 2 releases with Luca on sounding picture, and they can find it. It's they've been really one of the strongest releases, I would say, and one of my personal favorites. Although I don't have really favorites, but they turn up.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll drop links to your music in the description, and also embed them on the video. So for anybody that's interested, they can just hit the description and find you. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. If you want to keep in touch with us, don't hesitate to write, and just follow the podcast for future episodes. And it's nice talking to you again. Have a nice day.
Same here. Thank you very much.